Hey, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Late Night Happy Hour. Brian Kamenetsky and Andy Kamenetsky. It's Friday night, Andy, and we are very excited. Just wrapped up a great conversation with our friend Jorge Sedano.
Brian, it's Friday.
That's right. Hey! It's Friday. Bernian, hanging out. Friday. Hey! As he does. So we just wrapped up our conversation with Jorge Sedano. Got into some great stuff. We talked a little bit of LeBron, a little bit of All-Star Game stuff, Andy. Some really great Pat Riley stories, as Sedano has. He once again reminded everybody, yes, I was at Dan Le Batard's wedding. Like we know George, very famous and very important man.
Oh man, not only was this totally just a transparent flex name drop, it was unprompted. Yeah. Really, this was George going out of his way. It's like, dude, we understand.
Sir, this is an Arby's.
You are part of La Familia de Le Batard. We understand, but come on.
Yeah, come on. So, but anyway, most importantly, though, we introduce probably the most important thing we've done on the Late Night Happy Hour, a little segment that we call Sedano Explains Florida.
Yes.
Florida's a terrible state.
Yes, it is.
But George is willing to stick up for it, and we need him to explain to us why so much strange shit happens in Florida. And he does it, and you will see that. So without further ado, Andy, let's go ahead and bring on George, and I will pull this up and share the audio. And here we go. Jorge Sedano. All right. Jorge Sedano joining us now. Very excited to have you on, George. We have a tremendous amount to cover. Just things that we've been looking forward to for a long time.
We've had this one circled, George, as you know.
Listen, we have been going back and forth, your people and my people. And by your people and my people, I mean us.
Yes.
On this. So, yeah, I'm glad we were able to make it work.
Before we start, though, everybody knows it's Sedano, LZ, and Cap. You've worked with a tremendous amount of people over the course of your career, George. You've been very lucky, very gifted. But I do need to know, what is it like to work with the all-time leading scorer in the NBA, the captain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, on a live radio show?
Listen, man, I know that Kareem has always wanted to get into media, right? He at first. It was one of those issues that, he felt that, despite being truculent towards the media, that he deserved better coverage. And I feel like he's finally succumbed to the pressure of coming to the dark side.
He's the captain.
It's not. No.
Oh.
It's Scott Kaplan.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, he is not the all-time leading scorer in the NBA.
No.
That is much less impressive. You know our theory, though. Andy and I have been trying to figure this. Has been a running thing on the Late Night Happy Hour that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, wherever you put him in the GOAT conversation for basketball, is 100% on the Mount Rushmore of the GOATs of impressive human beings. Like he's an all-time GOAT person.
Yo, when he dropped in that Bruce Lee 30 for 30, my friend Bruce Lee, it's like, whoa, like that in itself is just amazing, right?
Kareem could have literally never picked up a basketball his entire life. Right. And he would have had this incredibly noteworthy, eventful career as a writer. That alone, like a historian. I interviewed Kareem for a history documentary that he did on Black soldiers in the Revolutionary War, which I frankly knew nothing about until I interviewed him about this. He was like the producer of it, I believe the writer, narrator. And because Kareem was involved with this, it was incredible. Like everything he's done. Like at some point, like every time he writes an article for a Hollywood Reporter or Newsweek,
or the LA Times, I think.
The LA Times.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, it's embarrassing, like to the rest of us. Like,
I was about to say, not to him, to us.
No,
sure. Yeah.
Like seriously, man. Like save a little for the rest of us.
I need like 37 editors anytime I write anything. Like I'm sure he's just doing that freehand and just turning it in, and then they just,
but name it. F. Scott Fitzgerald didn't invent the skyhook. Like he was a good writer. Yes. But he didn't do that.
I think that's the first time that phrase ever been uttered, maybe in the history of man. F. Scott Fitzgerald is a really good writer, but he didn't invent the skyhook. I mean, what the hell?
Those are two incredible. the diversity of stuff that he is good at. He is. I mean, if you go from high school through pros, there's no question Kareem is the most accomplished basketball player of all time. So,
for sure.
And he's also all this other. So again, GOAT of human beings. He is absolutely on the Mount Rushmore. Find me someone better.
Basically, what Brian's saying is,
and again, he didn't have this kind of playing career as a pro as Kareem. But I always tell the story that you can't tell the story of basketball in this country without Kareem and without Pat Riley. Okay, because here's the thing. Pat Riley also played against Kareem in high school, beat Kareem, if I recall correctly, and then also played in the most important college basketball game in the history of college basketball. Texas Western started the first 5 African-American players for the first time in the championship game against Pat Riley and Adolph Rupp in Kentucky. And he was also, I guess he was like an advisor to Ridley Scott, who produced that movie, the Glory Road movie. And, then Pat's career, obviously, as a coach and an executive and just a speaking, with all his speaking engagements. There are few people in this world that when they talk to you, you absolutely should drop everything you can to listen to them. Kareem is one of them. And I think Riles is in that conversation too. Like the last time I spoke to him at length was at Levitard's wedding. This was like November of 2019. And we spoke for 30 minutes.
George.
Huh?
Quite a flex.
Hey, you were on the Lauer After Hours, okay? So we're all in the same family together.
I mean, none of them, I don't think, were invited to Levitard's wedding.
You don't know that. You don't know that, okay?
I don't know that.
You're like, I know, but you don't know. I'm just not allowed to say.
Right. So anyway, yeah, it was a secret wedding, basically. So it was like, it got to the point where Mrs. Sedano and Mrs. Riley were like trying to pull us apart, which was kind of funny because I hadn't seen him in so long. But yeah, Kareem, Riles, cherish the people we got, man. You know what I mean? Because they're not going to be around forever,
No, absolutely. And by the way, this was also a long joke setup of Brian's to basically say, get your shit together, Kaplan, because you're nowhere close to the actual Cap.
Or now that I'm thinking about it, is Pat Riley available to be the third guy in that show?
I mean, he's always wanted to move back to Malibu, right? Like that's his Valhalla. So you know what? Maybe that's my move. Pat, you should just turn the reins over to Spo. Just let him be Pop, right? And then you come to Malibu and you do the show with us. Let's go.
He's putting the time.
When do you think, by the way, because we got a lot, speaking of Riley, of Florida to get to. We've been talking about this.
Prepared. I am very prepared for this.
We've been talking about this segment for a long time. Jorge Sedano Explains Florida. But before we get to that, when do you think Riley will actually just hand over the keys to somebody else and actually go to this incredible home that he has in Malibu that I guess is empty most of the time?
Yeah, he's got cameras, though. He does have cameras. He can go on his phone and look at the house and the ocean and all of it, right? And he built this house way back in the day.
I know.
40 years ago, Yeah, it's pretty wild. The answer to that question is I sure as hell don't know. Because I actually had that conversation with someone who has been around Pat for many, 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 many years, right? And I said, eventually Pat, he's going to have to call it quits. He's like, man, listen, Pat ain't going anywhere, okay? He is going to be there till the end. Now, look, that is not what he has told people. I remember he told my buddy Ethan Skolnick many years ago when he worked at Bleacher Report. After LeBron left, he was quoted and said, all I want is one more, and I may not even stick around for the parade. Now, listen, I know that sounds great, and maybe he would surprise me, but I don't buy that for 1 second.
I do not know him at all. I mean, I've had one. I think in all the time I've worked around basketball, I might have been involved in one conversation in a group with Pat Riley. He does not strike me as the kind of person who's going to retire. I don't think he'd be good at retiring.
No, I don't think so either. He's become a lot better over the years at the family thing because he was tunnel vision, okay? He was, this is my life. I've got to do this. He treated every game like it was a game 7. And, that intensity wears on people after a while, right? Players, everybody, people in the organization. But he has always been someone, and I admire him unlike anyone, because when I was a punk-ass kid covering the Miami Heat, literally a punk-ass kid in 2003, he rode me occasionally, but he was always there to tell me, like, you did this good, this sucked, like, and just having those kinds of people in your life, right? Like, you guys covered Phil, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you got to take him seriously. And to your credit, like, a lot of times people are willing to put that out there for your benefit, whether it's a person like Pat Riley, whether it's a more senior journalist, whatever it is. And not everyone listens. And so, you gotta listen and actually take what they're saying seriously.
Yeah. But I guess, to answer your point, I don't think he's going anywhere. Like, I think Pat is going to do this for as long as he can do it. Like, that's it. And we'll be, the day he's not doing it is the day that we'll, probably be mourning him, because that's what he is. He is a basketball lifer.
Yeah, it's funny. I was laughing when you said, treating everything like every day like Game 7, everything like Game 7. Yeah. I texted Andy before we started talking tonight that if Andy and I had taken every aspect of our careers as seriously and intensely as we have preparing for the Florida segment tonight, we would be, like Simmons would be like looking at with his media empire going, God, I wish I had what they had.
I mean, seriously,
like, this is our Game 7.
I see a logo, which is awesome. I love the logo. When did this start? Because when I was here last, there wasn't a logo.
No, we used to have a logo. Back in the ESPN days, that was taken care of for us.
Right.
Carlo took care of that for us. Then no, that's Land O'Lakers. Let me see if I can find. We had this for a little while, so I'll take that away. But it's a little big when we go with the 3, and so
I like that one. I like that one.
Yeah, this is a good one. We just need to make it slightly larger. This was made by Jorge's friend, right, Andy?
Yes. Yeah, Jorge at 17.
Jorge Briones from
buddy of his, and I apologize, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, which is awesome promotion for him.
Yeah,
but he made that for us, and it's fantastic. But you're going to see, George, that we've gone all out for this segment in terms of the bells and the whistles and the visuals. Like, you are going to feel very special. Yeah, I mean, you are going to feel like this at the end. You're going to be doing pelvic thrusts in celebration.
So I'm prepared. I have actual like documents that I have perused to make sure that I have the answers for a lot of your questions.
Excellent. We are very, very excited about
that. Yeah. So before we get to the point of tonight, which is Jorge Sedano Explains Florida, I do the one basketball. We're not going to go through like what does it mean if Dennis Schroeder misses 4 games instead of 6 games, and we're not doing that tonight. The part that I am interested in, I really curious, and as somebody who's been around LeBron and kind of played in that orbit a little bit.
As you've said before, George, you speak LeBron.
I do. Yes.
Very fluent.
It's a rarely used category on Rosetta Stone. What is going to happen when he gets to the All-Star game? Is he going to play hard? Is he going to, in the end, kind of do the company thing here and try to put on a good show? What is he going to do? Because what he does, a lot of guys are going to do.
Okay, so we spent a ton of time talking about Pat Riley, right, and how intense he is and how he wants to, treat everything like Game 7. When LeBron James has his mind set on something, and particularly once he's within the white lines of a basketball court, he's going to play basketball at a really high level. Like, I don't think there's any question about that. He's just too competitive. I think part of the reason him and Riles didn't get along at the end and had some of those issues they had when he left to Cleveland was just how competitive they are, And so I do think he's going to play. And once he's there, he's going to be LeBron James, man. Like, he is, I know that he took a lot of grief early in Cleveland when, he had an injury. Like, that's the other part of this. Like, people were giving him grief for like, oh, LeBron's going to take his 2-week vacation here, in Cleveland. He's going to go down to Miami and train. He was hurt, like legitimately hurt. Like, his back was really messed up in 2014. And he got lucky that the guy who helped him at the time, Donnie Ramon, who was one half of the Donnie Ramon, David Alexander group that has worked with a ton of athletes, including Dwayne Wade. They fixed Dwayne's knees. late in his career. They have fixed Chris Paul. That's who they work with a lot now.
Wow.
They are the group that has fixed Chris Paul. They fixed LeBron's back. LeBron's back was in really bad shape. Brian Windhorst wrote a story about this back then at the time. It's worth your time to Google it and read it. Look, he has been through a lot. So I know people said that, but I think LeBron really cares about putting on a show, right? For the fans, whether they're in attendance or not, for the TV audience, whatever it is, he feels, as the face of the league for many years now, like it's on him. And I also think the MVP stuff matters to him because he has been robbed a number of times. And what's been held against him is sitting out some games, right? So since, I guess, that second to last year or that last year in Cleveland where he played all 82, right? I think it's been a focus of his to be like, all right, you know what? I'm going.
It is plainly obvious that he cares about playing every night. There's no question about that.
Bleep to the wall every day, and so be it. And let's see what the results are. This afternoon when the Lakers had media availability, I asked Kuz, hey, a lot of guys have complained about the All-Star game. As somebody who's not going to be there, no disrespect, but like, how do you feel about the game? Do you think it should be played? Because I get the impression none of these guys, it's not because of COVID. They just don't want to play. They feel like they were told they weren't have to. They want the time off. And Kuz is like, I'm going somewhere with a nice beach. If I was playing, maybe I'd feel different and all that. Andy, you were on the call too. I got a very strong, I don't want to touch this one vibe because Kyle Kuzma and James Ennis III and Alfonso McKinney, right?
Like that's who they're playing this game for. It's not for Giannis and LeBron,
right?
No, I feel like ultimately what we're going to end up happening is I don't think it's going to be a very good game because I think the guys, frankly, aren't going to have the rest that they need. I think some of them really just aren't going to want to be there, regardless of whether somebody like LeBron decides I'm going to ball out because that's my job. I think LeBron is going to ball out, but I think he will find ways talking afterwards to not even subtly passive aggressively let everybody know just what a pain in the ass this was and how put upon he was to be doing this thing, even if he performs at a very high level. Because as we all know, LeBron forgets nothing.
Yeah. Oh, no question about that. I could ask him. Oh, wrong side. He's right there above me. So
TV weatherman Jorge Sedano joins us tonight.
But yeah, he's going to do the right thing because he always does the right thing in those situations. So I feel confident that's the case. I do hope the game is good because if you're going to have it, you might as well make it interesting. And I think that there's some guys in there there will be some guys who haven't been there that many times where those guys are going to want to play. The Bradley Beals of the world. Like I think that's a showcase for some guys like that.
Do you think the coaches want to be there? Like Doc's staff today clinched it, and I guess it's Quinn Snyder's staff clinched it. Like, do they want to go?
Doc said he'd like to find a way for Pop to do it.
Yeah, that would be funny. I think Quinn would probably want to go because he's never done it, right? So I think that there's some of that. But yeah, I think if you're someone like Doc who's done it already, it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
So who do you think?
Obviously, we don't know the whole teams yet, but who do you think? There's always the one guy who really wants to win MVP.
Dame is going to be the guy this year, isn't it? Or Bradley? I feel like it's going to be one of those two guys.
This is Lillard's third All-Star or something like that.
It's not
fourth. Okay. So it's been a little while now since we've done the thing where Lillard gets snubbed, and I'm 100% convinced
No, he's still snubbed. He should have been a starter.
No, but he's on the team.
This will be his sixth time.
There were at least 2 seasons prior to the ones he made it that you were like, how the hell doesn't he even make the squad?
But I was always convinced the Blazers were paying people around the league to not put Damian Lillard on the All-Star team because then he would come back every year and average 35 in the second half of the season because he was so pissed.
Right. And then, of course, couple that with the fact that 538 every year always picked them to win like 38 games in that same stretch. So there was like double motivation.
He's absolutely one of my favorite players in the league, and I think that's true for a lot of people. He's actually kind of busted his way into the MVP conversation.
I agree. I think Steph is in that conversation now too. Kawhi is back tonight, right? So we'll see if he can continue to kind of put himself in that spot. Tim Bontemps at ESPN does like this straw poll of like 100 people all over the country. I was one of the people he texted. And, this is like back in early February, right? I want to say it was the first week. So I had LeBron, I had Embiid, I had Jokic, and then I had Kawhi and KD because at that time they had played a decent amount of games. But I honestly, after those first three, at least up until that point, it was challenging because the Warriors were like 500, and then and the Blazers were pretty good. I think they were like a 5 or 6 seed at that point. But it's like, do you want to put someone who's like a 5 or a 6 seed on there? So it's just a strange season, which look, honestly should be just the theme for the whole season and the whole year and last year and probably this whole decade.
It's actually this season is weirder than last season.
It is because we got most of the season in last year.
Right.
That was different. Dude, I'll never forget how this all went down. Okay. Like I did a game. I should have bought, honestly, I was in New Orleans so much last season that I probably should have bought an apartment. But so I was in New Orleans, and this was like early March. So this is like when it was a thing, but it wasn't like pandemic yet. Like here, like we were still like,
you could still do this without,
right.
It's still a joke.
For that, yeah. And we were kind of like wondering, like, is this thing gonna make its way here? Like, what's this gonna be like? And I remember thinking to myself, like, I didn't want to go, but someone who in the league texted me and it's like, hey, I'm having a beer at this place. Come have a drink with me. It's like, come on, man. I literally just got into bed after dinner. Like, I just want to chill. Like, stuff is crazy. And he's like, no, come on. So I said, all right. So he guilted me into it, peer pressured. I walk over there, right? And I said to myself, as I'm walking down this kind of lonely street, before I get to the main drag on Canal and then cross street with Bourbon, I was like, I'm on Canal on the opposite side of Bourbon. And I was like, no, I'm going to keep going this way. I'm going to go all the way around the side streets, stay as far away as I can from Bourbon Street. Because if this thing is real, this place is going to be really bad. And it was.
Oh, yeah.
It was. Unfortunate. It was bad. And so we went into this bar, which, was like a small place, but they had the windows open and the doors open just because that's what they normally do.
Right.
And,
it's March and
by the door and the windows. And I was just like, but that was all that was in my head then. So that week when it happened, I was supposed to do a Saturday game. It was Warriors Bucks. I'll never forget. It was March 14th, which was a Saturday. And my wife and I, we were renting a place and we were moving into a new rental, and I was going to do it. We were going to move in on that date, March 14th, but then I got assigned the game. So I told my wife, hey, can you call the movers and see if they can do it on a Thursday, the 12th? And I was like, okay, cool. So the day before was the Rudy Gobert thing. And I'll never forget, I was in the car and I had gone to pick up something to eat for us. And I called her and, I'm listening to the radio. Everything's going nuts, right? Like everybody's talking about it. And I call her and I said, so this just happened. She's like, yeah, I just saw on social media. And I said, there's probably very little chance I'm traveling to Milwaukee on Saturday. And I think we need to call the movers or email the movers and find out if we are still moving tomorrow, because I think the world is going to change. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened, Andy.
Oh, yeah. I remember that week. I was doing this was back when it was Keyshawn, Travis, and LZ. Mm-hmm. I was sitting in for Travis that whole week.
Right.
And that we were starting to get the idea that this is starting to get worse. This is starting to become a thing. Then that Wednesday was Rudy Gobert Day, also known as Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson Day.
Correct.
And that's when everything stopped. And my wife, I'm getting up every day at like 5 a.m. at this point because I'm filling in for Travis. And my wife had been getting increasingly nervous about sending our daughter to school and whether or not we should do this. And I kept telling her, I'm like, look, I'm cool with whatever decision you want to make. If you want to pull her out, if you're not feeling comfortable, pull her out. It's not a big deal to me, but ultimately it's your choice because I'm already going to be out of the house.
Right.
And, she was like feeling bad about it. And she's like, the school, like, affects resources, things like that when kids are absent. I said, look, honestly, do whatever you want, because this was a Wednesday. I was like, by Friday, I can promise you that's the last day of school. I'm like, I can tell you that after this week that we're in, there's going to be no school. It's going to be suspended for a while. So at worst, you're pulling her out 2 days early. So do whatever you want. But I could tell even then, I'm like, man, shit's about to go sideways in ways that we have never seen before.
Well, it's funny because so we did end up moving the next day. The mover's like, yeah, we're on. And they came and they moved us. And I gave them a huge tip. First of all, I gave them a huge tip because it was pouring rain on it never rains here, as you guys know, in LA. And it was pouring. So I gave them a huge tip on that. And I also felt like I gave them like a pandemic tip too, like just in case. Because it was like, I was just thrilled that we were able to do it, because then it was like, all right, then we got to just go extend our, month to month, maybe where we were going. Like we had already told them we were leaving. Like the whole thing would have been a mess, but we were very thankful that happened. And then, everything changed. That I clearly didn't go to do that game, and no one did anything. And we are still here, although I have done some games since. Yes.
Yeah, it was just. My lasting memory is thinking of that Nets game that they played, thinking it might be the last one we're in person for a while, going, I got to be there because this might be the last game. And like a week after, going, what the hell was I? Why did I need to be there? I mean, it was like, it seemed so important at the time, and then as soon as you're done with it, you're like, well, that was completely unimportant. Then I can play basketball for 6 months.
And dude, let me tell you, look, I don't want to get into a deep philosophical conversation about working during a pandemic or whatnot. But just as a sports fan, so compartmentalizing it as a sports fan for a second, those few months, man, were wild. Like in the sense of the world was stopped. But for us, think about it, in sports, how many times has the sports world stopped? Like 9/11, right? Really probably World War II. We weren't alive during that time, right? So
Andy was.
Andy was. But it was there are very few moments, and this thing stopped for months.
We were paying me for my service, George.
If it were, thank you for your service. If we were ever going to get back to any semblance of normalcy, so while we're sitting here talking about the All-Star game and whether it should happen or not, the fact that we have any games, to me, is a product of ingenuity and just people being really smart about how to handle it in the initial phases, for sure. The NHL bubble, the NBA bubble, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
All right. So that's all well and good.
Let's do Florida, man. Let's go.
All right. As you know, George, I think we've had this conversation. If were it up to me, this is how Florida would get treated. All the time.
Yeah, I know. You're not alone.
I consider Florida to be easily the worst of the real states in America. America is like 25 real states and 25 states that allow you to fill out the conference.
25 feels generous.
But you've got call it 20. But you've got 20 legit states, and then you need the other 30 to fill out the conference. Otherwise, you can't be the Big 12, you can't be the SEC, you can't what's Washington State really there for other than filler?
On the front end, I love all states.
Let's be honest, some of these states,
no, you don't.
They're play-in states.
George, you don't love.
How about that?
Love Arkansas.
Let's bring in Puerto Rico. Okay, let's bring in.
I would do that.
I'm good with bringing in Puerto Rico. I would just like to swap out a state for Puerto Rico. I don't need 50. I don't need 51. I need fewer with Puerto Rico in there.
You want it to be like the English Premier League where there's relegation.
I want the U.S. to do like a salary dump with Puerto Rico where we send 5 states out, for Puerto Rico. We give up a bunch of expiring states for Puerto Rico.
Guam is available, right?
Perfect.
But I just, Arkansas, for example, is the Mississippi state of states. If you understand, it's there purely to fill out the conference. We do not need
Listen, I've been there. I used to call college football games.
So have I.
Sun Belt Conference, okay? I have been all around that area, and that is America, my friend, okay?
All right. Anyway, but yeah. So of all the real states, Florida's the worst.
Although I did. Just quick aside. I did call a game at Arkansas State one time, the Wolfpack or the Red Wolfpack or something like that. And this was way back, like 10 years ago now. And it was a dry town, Jonesboro, Arkansas. I arrived at the hotel. I went straight to the bar, and the guy's like, "Nope." And I was like,
"Why do they have a bar?"
I don't know. It's just the hotel had a bar. I guess they just built it that way. Like maybe it was like hotels just have like a stock build out, right? Like, and that's probably what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I would live in Florida before I lived in Mississippi or before I lived in Arkansas. Or it's no, it's not. It's a
bad rap.
It's the worst of the real states.
Well, Florida. The problem, George, is as you can see, it's got a little bit of the crazy.
So let me explain this, right? So let me explain this, okay? I've done some research here. And if you have to go back.
By the way, we have officially launched into tonight's featured segment, Sedano Explains Florida.
Yes, Sedano Explains Florida. Here we go. We're now, almost 30 minutes into the show, and here we are. So since 1909, Florida has a tradition that all government business is public business and therefore should be available to the public. That means all records, photos, videos, anything produced by a public agency is easily accessible, and that includes public trusts, right? So this is why you have access to more information in the state of Florida than anywhere else in the country, hence why Florida Man started. Now, the term Florida Man, before it became a famous meme, was actually coined by the folks at the Miami New Times, which, if I recall correctly, was also owned by the same company that created the original Village Voice in New York. They are, one of these independent sources of local news, culture, et cetera, right? Just like the Village Voice, owned by the same companies. And they coined that term, Florida Man, and then it became a thing. So for everything that you see, it's because of this law that they have. And the law allows you to do that, right? It's called the Open Government Law, is what I believe the name of it is. So that's it. So because of that, everything is on the table for you, including, by the way, like I'll give you a great example. So the Miami-Dade County Commissioner, at the moment, one of them is named Xavier Suarez. He was once the city of Miami mayor. Okay. His son is now the mayor.
Now the current mayor of Miami, yes.
Correct. He's been in the news recently a lot for his Bitcoin.
Correct.
Bitcoin.
I have interviewed him. Side note.
Anyway. Great. He's an actual friend of mine, Francis Suarez. So, but like the funniest instance of this is this. So Francis was a commissioner before he was the mayor, right? While his dad was so Francis was a city commissioner and his dad was a county commissioner, okay? Before Francis, the son, became mayor as well. And they had to file a public notice to have a conversation. So the father had to file a public notice to have a conversation with his own son because of this law. So I'm telling you, this is why we have what we have, and this is why Florida Man exists, is because of this law that was started in 1909.
That may be all well and good, George, but you got to admit, there's some daffy stuff going on in Florida. I mean, like,
no.
It's not just the transparency of this law, because there are certain places you could have the same transparency and they would not have some of the stories that we are going to go through with you, George.
Sure. Look, we had a guy try to eat people with bath salts one time. I remember that vividly.
You can't just blame that on 1909.
Okay, I get it.
And that feels like the kind of thing we'd have found out about anyway.
Yeah,
that's not just the 1909 law.
No, for sure. But I do think the law makes it easier to find all these records. Is kind of
okay. So what we have for you tonight, George, is a series of stories, and we would like you to rate them on a 1 to 5 scale, sort of Floridness.
Right. So 1 to 5 palm trees.
No, gators.
Oh, gators. Okay,
gators. You rate each story on a scale of 1 to 5 gators, 5 being the most Florida-ish, and 1 being not terribly Floridian. Okay. And that's how this is going to go. Andy, you go first.
Okay, I've got a story I call it 911 as a joke. In Pasco County, I don't know where that is. Do you know where that is, George?
It's like central North Florida.
Okay, well,
Snorth, they call it.
Snorth.
This gent, Matthew Leatham, was arrested after calling 911 multiple times at 4 a.m. to get a ride home. The first cop that responded offered to take Leatham or get him a cab. He had been walking. Leatham said he didn't have the money for it. He called 911 again, and then the same cop responded. They found weed on him, and he was arrested. He also, as you can see, has a state of Florida tattoo right in the middle of his face.
Which we know about because of that law from 1908.
So on 1909. So on 1908 was the World's Fair. So on a scale of 1 to 5 gators, George, what do you give that?
I mean, the tattoo makes you think you should give it a 5, but it's really like, I don't know. I would say like somewhere between like a 3 and a 4. Look,
we don't have 3.5, George. We just have 3 or 4.
3 gators. We'll go 3
gators. Okay.
3 gators. Okay.
Isn't all that interesting. It's just the tattoo that made him even register, to be honest. But it's so outlandish that it deserves at least 3 gators. It's above average because of the tattoo.
Yeah. Oh no. All the details matter.
And the placement of the tattoo also matters. Yes.
Oh yeah. I mean
it's not good.
No. I mean, I guess it sort of looks like a birthmark.
It does look like Gorbachev.
It has that Gorbachev-esque feel. Yes.
Boy,
tear that wall down, Mr. Gorbachev.
That is a 3-mile stare right there.
Yeah. The stare is five gators.
All right, so Brian, you're up.
All right, so police say they responded to the home of Joanna Zielinski, a home that she shares with her sister around 10:30 earlier this month due to a 911 hang-up. Zielinski's sister told officers they had been drinking together, and at some point she got tired and wanted to go to sleep while Zielinski stayed up and continued drinking. Records show the victim went crazy and attacked her with an EpiPen, stabbing her multiple times, including on the left thigh, where a welt had formed. When asked about the incident, police said that Zielinski replied, quote, "I'm allergic to drunks, so I injected her with the EpiPen so she wouldn't be drunk anymore. What's the big deal?" First responders arrived on the scene and said the victim wasn't actually injected with any medication during the incident because of the way Zielinski was holding the EpiPen. This is my favorite detail of the report. The EpiPen was prescribed to Zielinski, but her sister doesn't have any allergies. I love that detail.
Now just the back and forth.
I feel like these people could date.
The commentary, right, I think is interesting. I feel like, the fact that there was actually, she did try to stab her with an EpiPen that also wasn't armed with anything in it. There's just the silliness aspect of it. I'm going to say that one is also 3 gators. I'm going to go 3 gators.
3 gators there.
Reason, right? Because it is ridiculous. It involves alcohol and it involves, again, some assault, but nothing really that is that out of the ordinary. You've never gotten drunk and tried to stab someone with something before. An EpiPen.
I tend to try to stab Andy when I'm sober. When I'm drunk, I'm much more fun.
Only 3 gators. 3 more gators there on that one.
Okay. This next one I call 2 girls, 1 ring. Volusia Sheriff's detectives have a arrest warrant out for a theft. The suspect stole an engagement ring and wedding bands from his girlfriend in Orange City and used them to propose to his other girlfriend in Orlando. Joseph Davis, who went by Joe Brown with one girlfriend and Marcus Brown with the other, is wanted on a felony charge of grand theft. Current address and whereabouts unknown, at least at the time of this article. The Orange City woman came forward and told detectives that she learned about this when she looked up her fiance's Facebook page, saw a photo of her wearing a wedding band and engagement ring that was identical to her own from a previous marriage. When she went to check her jewelry box, she discovered her rings were gone along with other jewelry. So 2 girls, 1 ring, George.
Better than that website.
I don't know. I don't feel like that one's all that good. I feel like that's a 1 gator for me. Like, I'm not feeling that.
He was dating 2 women. Stole her jewelry wasn't using the correct name with either. Like, he proposed to 2 women under a fake name.
It's like an everyday. That's a Wednesday in Florida.
That's what I said. You do realize this. All of this undercuts the argument you were making at the beginning of this segment, which was that essentially this shit happens everywhere. We just know about it because Florida is the sunshine state.
I bet you if we had the 1909 law, we would have it in other places too, is what I would say. But I feel like that one's kind of like a yawner. I'm going one Gator. Sorry.
All right. As we continue in Sedano, the inaugural edition of Sedano Explains Florida. I like this.
County, shout out to Volusia County, the Daytona Beach, Vince Carter, since we love talking basketball.
Okay.
I did not know that. Let's see here. That was the first shout out to Volusia County that we've ever had on the late night happy hour. So
there's always
is anybody here watching from Volusia County? Woo!
Vince is watching this stream right now. Okay,
that would be awesome.
Okay, here we go.
Watching, come on the show.
Yeah, please. This is one we call Monkey Business, an informal weekly, I like that too, weekly event known as Monkey Mondays at Carrabba's Italian Grill in Stuart, Florida, was canceled after an 8-year-old boy was bitten by one of 2 pet monkeys brought by a local couple. This from the Miami Herald. The couple started the exotic pet-friendly tradition when they brought their 2 pet monkeys to eat outside on a Carrabba's patio. Eventually, the waitstaff started calling the patrons' weekly routine Monkey Mondays. Those days are over now, as a 9-month-old capuchin named Jojo bit an 8-year-old boy on the finger. Yeah. I like this story both because exotic pets eating in a restaurant in Florida seems to be normal. Other people started bringing their exotic pets to the table. And I also like it because it's a Carrabba's, which is a chain. So Monkey Mondays at Carrabba's ends because Capuchin monkey bites an 8-year-old. George, what do we got?
By the way, the monkey had not been vaccinated for rabies.
5 Gators. 5 Gators.
5 Gators.
Excellent.
You forgot the fact that the people at Carrabba's were openly welcoming these people with the exotic pets. So that takes it way over the top. This is by far the best story that you've given me, and the most Florida story. Because I will tell you this. So I grew up in a city called Hialeah, Florida, and my neighbor also had a monkey. And he had 2 dogs too. He had a Doberman Pinscher and a German Shepherd, and they had a cage for the monkey. And now the monkey never bit anybody. Didn't bite my neighbors, didn't bite any of us. But he did pee one time on one of my neighbor friends, like a kid. And that was my extent of knowing someone who owned an exotic animal. And I know if Ron McGill, who you see on the Levitard show, here on the Levitard show all the time, is listening to this or watching this, he is appalled at this story. This is not his kind of thing. He does not want people to own exotic animals. But
I just like you would figure Carrabba's would have some sort of policy like in place that would prevent this kind of thing from happening.
most of the time it went great. I mean, it just
that one time,
right. And let's be honest, the kid probably did something to provoke the monkey.
You're saying the child deserved it, Andy? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying the child deserved it. All I'm saying is I don't want to condemn Monkey Mondays as an event, like, out of pocket, just completely whole cloth. I mean, 99 out of 100 times, those Mondays work out just fine. That's all I'm saying.
Let me also explain Stuart, Florida to you. Okay? Stuart, Florida is like Pleasantville, which is the weirdest part of all of this, right? Like, that's the other part of this story that we haven't discussed. Like, Stuart, Florida is like north of Palm Beach, kind of like halfway between like Palm Beach and Orlando. So it's basically either people who want to get away from the bigger cities in like Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Palm Beach, or Orlando, and like want to move somewhere in the middle that's more neighborhoody, right? More suburban-y. And apparently that also means bringing your pet exotic animals to Carrabba's.
Apparently that Carrabba's now is just they made a rule. It's just I'm not joking. Service dogs and horses.
Yeah,
or there are no more.
You got to draw the line somewhere in.
By the way, the name of this photo is Pond Wastewater Scum Stock Footage.
There you go.
That's the name of that photo where I found it. That is a 5-star thing. All right, Andy, go ahead.
42-year-old Kimberly Gable told Pinellas County deputies she was, quote, blacked out drunk after she allegedly stole a live lobster from a tank at a Red Lobster and ran out of the restaurant. According to the Sheriff County's office report, Gable was, quote, causing a scene at the restaurant when she was approached by the manager. At about 1:15 p.m. Saturday, Gable was asked to leave the restaurant after customers complained about her causing a disturbance. She then proceeded to reach into the water tank containing the live lobster, grabbed the lobster, and ran out of the restaurant. She does not recall what she did with the lobster. She was released on a $100 bond.
Probably took it to Carrabba's. We're a bit of 6-year-old.
Okay, here's what I'm going to tell you. I mean, that is absolutely.
Oh, and by the way, yeah, here she is. Here's
It is not the same woman. It looks like it's the same woman, but it's not the same.
It's not. Look how ashamed Kimberly looks at her action.
She is very ashamed. Yeah. Four gators. I'm going
4 gators. Okay.
Excellent.
And let me explain something. Like Pinellas County, I was just because the other ones you mentioned, right? Like Volusia, Pasco, Stewart, etc. Those areas more rural or suburban or whatnot. No, Pinellas County is like St. Petersburg, like right Tampa, like that area. So I was going to be like, well, most of this stuff happens in these like podunk type areas. No. We have it at a Red Lobster in like the middle of a normal city. Yeah, here we are.
Middle of the day. Who is hammered at 1:15?
I mean, what you should have done is eaten some of those cheddar biscuits, which are delicious and would have sopped up with alcohol.
They are really good.
I have it's been a while since if we have time, we do have one fast food story we can get to, but it's been a little while since I've been to Red Lobster, but I do kind of have a soft spot, and it is built mostly around the cheddar biscuits.
The cheddar biscuits are delicious, man.
They are good.
I have been in a while, but they are so good. It's funny though. I've had those experiences where you remember stuff as a kid or as maybe even like a teenager or like whatever, like in college, and you're like, oh man, I love that stuff. And then you go back as an adult after your palate has changed, and you're like, ooh, that happened to me once at Sizzler. As a kid, I loved Sizzler. And then I went back with my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, and we went to a Sizzler, I want to say like on the West Side somewhere, right? Like I don't even remember where we were, but here in the West Side somewhere. This is many years ago when we were dating. And I said, you know what? I'm going to have me some Malibu chicken. I remember Malibu chicken tasting so delicious when I was 10. I'm going to have Malibu chicken. And then I ate the Malibu chicken. And I'm like, this is awful. Like, what is coming here to have Malibu chicken?
I basically discovered because there was a Sizzler across the street from my dorm my freshman year. So, my roommates and I would go there a lot. I mean, it's perfect when you're 18 in college.
Sure.
I came to discover that basically once I stopped getting high on a regular basis, Sizzler didn't taste nearly the same. Like it really, really helps to be high. Yeah.
And I would imagine also either that or just like 10, right? Where you don't have the actual taste buds.
Or high and 10.
You're not going to Sizzler for the sirloin, or you're going for the quantity of the salad.
I don't even know if you're going to Sizzler anymore.
Yeah.
No, Sizzler's gone.
It's kind of like Olive Garden. You're going for the salad and the breadsticks.
But I mean, post-COVID, I mean, the whole Sizzler format, I don't know if that's going to exist anymore.
What's the other place? Golden Corral, right? Like no chance.
Golden Corral, Soup Plantation.
Yeah, something like that after, post-COVID. Because I'm not above, like, I love me some get-down food every once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
But I will crush a buffet whenever I'm like in Vegas or whatever. But even now, I'm kind of like, I don't know. Maybe not.
It feels like a savage type tradition, the buffet now. Like it feels really.
Because when I was in Vegas for Summer League, I was there for 2 weeks at a time. every time I was there for the entirety of it. Like from day one through the last game, I'm on the team that's calling the championship game. So there were at least, you're there for 2 weeks. There's at least 2 or 3 buffet nights in there where you're just like, you know what? I don't feel like going to a restaurant. I just want to go in like my jeans and a t-shirt and just crush a buffet and go back to the room and go to sleep, And I don't know if that's going to be the deal anymore. I think it's just going to be room service on those nights. So.
I find the buffet is a uniquely American sort of monument to excess and waste that just might be going away. All right, my last one from me, as they say on the radio.
I've got one for this as well.
Okay. That's straight from Mason Island. Last one from me. A Jacksonville store's close proximity to drug testing centers resulted in the owner banning customers from using the microwave to warm urine stored in bags or containers.
Okay, whoa. Start again? No. Go. Wait. Just start all over again. I need to hear from the top.
Yes, a Jacksonville store's close proximity to drug testing centers resulted in the owner banning customers from using the microwave to warm urine stored in bags or containers.
Okay, so a regular store, do we know what kind of store?
It doesn't say.
I gather it's a convenience store.
Okay.
No, it's on the fly convenience store.
Okay, got it. All right, so don't warm your urine from next door. Okay.
Right. Please don't do that. Peru Patel, owner of On the Fly convenience store on the corner of Phillips Highway and Shad Road, told First Coast News, "We got sick and tired of people bringing in their urine containers. They're just random people walking in, and it's happening every day."
5.
5 gators. There they are.
Yes.
Gators. Yeah, it's 5 gators. It's okay. Like that is its own entity. We almost don't even claim it, to be honest with you. It's like Georgia, really.
It's northern Florida is southern Georgia. I get that, but I mean, it's still yours. Sorry, George.
Yes, technically it's still ours, but yeah. Look, man.
What do you think? What is the etiquette for that, George? Because if I walk into a convenience store and I'm not necessarily planning on buying anything, but I want to use the bathroom,
how gross is that microwave smell, man? Think about it this way. Just think about it this way. When you're at a normal office setting, right, and they have a microwave at your office, like most of the time, people will be like looking sideways at the person who maybe brings fish from home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Could you, because that's reeks. It smells terrible when you're heating up fish in a microwave. What the hell does urine smell like in a microwave?
Oh, it's gotta be so rough.
I mean,
every day,
literally
multiple people.
For you. Yes.
And doing this, by the way, without even like buying something. Like they're just walking in, microwaving their pee, and they're leaving.
Yeah. Exactly. Are they doing that? Is there a reason behind this? Are they doing it because it will make their pee come back clean? Like, is that?
No, I think it's because if you are trying to pass off a bad sample and you give them cold urine, you can't fake it. You have to have warm. They're going to instantly know that's not your like live pee if it's cold.
Right. So they're coming in to take the drug test, bringing in a sample. So that's not theirs. Right. So they're bringing in, I see.
You know what they need? A Whizzinator.
I was just going to say.
Yeah. The Whizzinator, man. It was ahead of its time.
Yep.
Really was.
Out of the local convenience store.
All right. The last one from me.
Well, we're out of people after that. So
Pinellas County, Florida. A Florida man claimed ignorance when jail officials found syringes in his rectum during an early morning search. Wesley Scott, 40 years old, was arrested Friday in Pinellas County on an outstanding warrant charging him with drug possession, reported the smoking gun. When Scott was searching the jail, officers found 3 syringes inside his rectum. However, Scott claimed that he had found the syringes and they were not his, but he could not explain how they wound up in his buttocks. He was charged with introducing contraband in a correctional facility held on a $5,000 bond. George, your thoughts?
Five. You guys are
Yes.
finishing strong. You guys, I was worried at first with the story selection, but I should never have doubted you two. Yeah, you got a 5 there. So I have a friend. Every famous story starts that way, right? I have a friend.
Was this friend also at Dan Lebitard's wedding, George?
No, this was not a Dan Lebitard's. This person works is TSA, right? So and they work in like the drug unit, whatever that part of the unit is called. And at the airport, from people flying internationally, he has told me a ton of stories of people shoving things up their rectum that you would never believe, including a guy who apparently shoved some powder, let's just say, in there. And they had to rush him to the hospital very quickly. They couldn't even question him. Like, it was that quick. So this is a thing in Florida. If you're traveling for some reason, I never understood, though I guess I can understand his situation as well. Also trying to sneak it in to a jail, it sounded like, right? I mean, nothing I would ever do, exit only for me. But I get it, is what I would say.
I think, Andy, you had a theory when Kuz got hit with one of those warnings earlier this week about flopping, and it was so ridiculous and so over the top dramatic that you shouldn't be punished for it. I feel like if you can pull off with a straight face, I don't know how those syringes got in my rectum, and can do it, they should let you go.
Well, I mean, here's what's crazy is he clearly had those things up his ass for a while because he got arrested with them. So, like, I mean, when did they first enter said rectum? Like, what was the end game?
I think we need an expose. We need a follow-up story. I think maybe that's what we need for the next time I'm back.
We've all been pulled over, like, when you're a teenager and you try to pull with the police. I don't know how that beer ended up in my trunk. Like, it must have been my dad's.
Yeah,
it is really difficult.
Can you imagine what your posture would have to look like if you had syringes in your butt? Like, you clearly are sitting very straight.
I was going to say, clearly great posture is what
I'm not sitting down.
If you're a sloucher, maybe this is the way to go, is what you're saying.
Ooh.
Officer, I don't know how those 3 syringes ended up in my butt.
Were they loaded syringes? Was there anything in them? Do we know that?
It did not say.
Oh. It wasn't that specific. I think your friend, by the way, everybody has a podcast now. Your friend needs to start one entitled "Things That just the things in people's buttocks."
Things discovered in the rectum.
Podcast, yes, podcast.
I honestly,
how about this? Ready? The Rectum Files.
And go. All right, so that ends our inaugural, what we hope will be one of a much beloved segment on the late night happy hour. Sedano Explains Florida. Yeah. Apologies to 2 Gators who never had a chance to appear, but hopefully, one down the road we'll see 2 Gators.
Maybe.
There it is.
There they are. Wow, that was a great. Now I wish I would have picked them at one point. Yes,
it is. No, it's actually it gets much harder as you go along to find the photographs with the appropriate amount of gators. Originally, this is going to be a 1 to 10 thing, and I told Andy we're going to need to do that 1 to 5.
Yeah, the 3 1 to 10. The 3, those guys feel like they look like they're having fun. Those 3,
kind of adorable. In all honesty.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. I mean, like 4 is just like a child's flash card.
Yeah. Hey, whatever you needed to do. You know what I mean? I get it.
George Sedano, you know him from, and we didn't even get to the giant monster sandwich, but there's just, there's so much to cover. You know him from Sedano, LZ, and Cap, which is now, it's 5 to 8 now, right? Or is it 4 to 7? 4 to 7. You guys, everybody keeps moving.
Yeah.
At that station. And of course, when are you next on TV? When are you doing that?
So around the horn on Monday. I have a game, Warriors Indy on Wednesday, and then the jump on Friday next week. So,
And you can just do all this from home now.
Well, I try to do around the horn and the jump in the studio. It's actually nice because there's nobody there, although very eerie initially when I first started doing it months ago. But yeah, so around the horn, it's literally just me in a room. So it could be here. I could have done it here if I wanted to. But they now want us in the studio if we can.
Okay.
And then I'll be in Indy for the game, which, as a matter of fact, I have to take. The company's done a really good job of getting us tested before, multiple times before we actually get into the arena. Them and the league are working together on that. So I have to partake in the COVID protocols beginning on Sunday, and then back to do the jump on Friday. And yeah, Rachel's out because she'll be flying somewhere to do a game on Saturday. I don't know who is next Saturday because obviously Lakers.
I don't even know when. I don't even know when next Saturday is.
She's got to go somewhere clearly to travel, so I'm sitting in for her.
It's not a Laker game because they don't play on the 27th. So she's doing this on behalf of two other teams.
Right.
Frankly, our audience doesn't care about anyway.
So there you have it. That's it. So the radio show during the week, 4 to 7 on ESPN Los Angeles, and then 3 appearances next week. We got a Sedano TV appearances.
Tell Kaplan to pick it up.
I will. Let's go. Okay.
Dude, it is. Yeah. It's great to see you. Like literally see you. We've heard you, but now we see you. And it's you and the family are doing well. And we will do this again soon because I don't think we're done explaining Florida.
No, we're never going to be done explaining Florida. This can be a recurring bit for as long as you need it to be because there will always be stories thanks to the law in 1909. All right.
Yes. 1909. That's the only reason.
Fuck you, Texas. Florida's the freest state in the nation.
Great to see you too. Hope the family's great. Can't wait to be back on again.
Thank you so much, man. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Right. I think people can hear me now. That was delightful.
That was so much fun.
Actually, I can't hear you.
We had been looking forward to doing
keep
that
talking, Andy.
for so long. And finally, we're able to set this up, the time with George, and it was an absolute delight. Thank you again to George Sedano for making that happen. It was fantastic. Brian is experiencing some type of technical difficulty.
No, I'm back, I think.
Okay,
right?
there
Can
you
hear
go.
Me?
Yes,
Yeah.
now you can. There you go.
So anyway, yeah, so that's the show. We're not going to top that. I got a great slate of guests set up already for next week. Got the whole week filled. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday we'll start there. Kavitha Davidson and Jessica Luther have a really fascinating book about fandom and some of the challenges that it presents to people. So we'll do that on Monday. Sopan Deb covers
sports.
Yes, thank you. We'll talk about Sopan Deb, who does the NBA for the New York Times, but also is an author. Great, pop culture guy and all that. Tuesday, and our friend Sabrina Merchant is going to join us after the big Utah game on Wednesday. Woo! Really excited about that. So make sure you tune in with us next week as well. Thanks again to Sedano for coming on. That was a ton of fun, and we will see everybody next week.
Dank you, Nederland.